Grab your balloons, Wargamers, because it's about to go up. Well, kind of. We're a couple of videos away. For those of you that have been following the channel for some time, you already know what this map is. This is a map of two nations, Sinistrea and Dextromania, who fought what we've been calling the First Elopation War using William Silverster's solo wargaming guide. Unfortunately, this was a lot of fun. It generated a lot of interesting thought experiments, and it was a very useful first stab at a complicated solo war game. However, my viewers, being the astute and intelligent lot that they are, helped me understand what we could do better. Because at the end of the day, all of this sound and fury generated one small battle. And it was just a delaying action. We did some sieges, we did a lot of thought experiments, but I really have had a hankering lately to do some big battles. I want to throw large armies back and forth. The channel lately has been focused on skirmish wargaming, which is a lot of fun, but sometimes as a wargamer, you really want to hear the sound of drums and you really want to see regiments marching back and forth hither and yon, and mass bloodshed and carnage on a teeny tiny scale. So we're going to... Now, bear in mind, we've left this hanging. This has not been resolved yet. What we know is that the cause of the war, the princess of Sinistrea, was supposed to marry a prince of Dextromania, and she took the dowry and she ran off. Red-handed Helen is sailing somewhere over here in the Ever-North Ocean. What we didn't do was discuss the nations around here, because honestly it was kind of a beatdown. The Dextromanians put a beat down on Sinistrea, and the only reason Sinistrea still stands is because they were able to kidnap the Dextromanian prince, and they'll at least be able to negotiate some kind of peace. For now, we're going to leave that hanging in limbo, and in order to generate some more battles that we can use, now you will recall, these guys are red, and these guys are the blue army. I still have 3 more armies. I've got a black, a white, and a green army to use. So why don't we go ahead and turn our attention south, and we'll see what the First Elopation War, what kind of repercussions it has for the two nations located directly south of Sinistrea and Dextromania. It would be nice to go across the bay and just make 2 separate nations up there, but I've already determined, I've already said, this is it, man. There's nothing north but ice and polar bears eating penguins. And I know polar bears and penguins don't live in the same poles. This is not Earth. This is an imaginations battle, so we can decide that polar bears eat penguins. So what we're going to do is repeat the process, having learned from our, I don't want to call them mistakes, because it worked fine. It was okay. But we're going to try to do things a little bit better. So we're going to start with our map. Last time, we started with our cities, and we used a couple of dice to find out where large woods, where the rivers flowed. But before we get there, we're going to use the cards, actually. We'll get to that in a second. One thing I want to do is just mention that we're going to put a hard limit down south. We're going to call this the southern coast. And so we have our black nation is going to be over here, and our white nation is going to be over here. So the black hats and the white hats are going to war. And down the line, we may go ahead and just cap this off with the green nation and see how that changes things. For now, we'll just consider that kind of the pirate nation where red-handed Helen has disappeared off to. That's going to allow us to maintain, we got to maintain some credibility here. So we have a couple of major rivers that flow off like this, that flow off to the north. So in this case, any major rivers that we have, there's a bit of a continental divide. Maybe it's more of a peninsular divide. It's a pretty big peninsula. Remember, these two nations put together are the size of North Carolina. So now we've got to figure out South Carolina. 1 inch equals 1 inch equals 20 miles, and this is going to be 17 inches across. So we're looking at about 340 miles. About a 5 or 6 hour drive. At 20 miles a day, you're looking at about a 2-week journey to get from east to west. Not quite so far north to south. So let's talk about the lay of the land. Now that we know what our boundaries are to the north and that we've got a coast to the south, let's figure out, and we'll start with the Black Nation, which doesn't even have a name yet. We'll get to that. And to lay out our land, we're actually going to use this table that old Bill S. says to use to generate a battlefield when you actually do run a battle. And for that, we need a deck of cards. And we're going to lay out a 4x4 grid. And red cards are going to be open terrain. And then for the black cards, we're going to refer to this chart. So let's shuffle them up and deal them out. And I guess we'll leave that there and we'll lay them out next to so you guys can see that the great part about this particular solo wargaming guide is that it provides a lot of randomness that lets you fill in the gaps. And that's the kind of challenge I like, is taking these disparate elements and trying to come up with justifications and rationalizations for why things happen the way they do. Remember that our armies marched according to the beat of the dice, not to the beat of our decision-making process. All right, so it looks a little bit crowded here. We've got a queen, which is tall grass, okay? So we'll call that grass here. And then up here we've got a 9 of spades. So we have a light woods in the corner. And of course, remember that we have some mountain ranges here. We may go ahead and put, well, hang on. You've got light woods here and grasslands here. So it looks like that's the southern end of the Spearhead Mountains. Moving down on this side, we get a 7, so we have a light woods here. And coming across here is a 2, so we've got hills. The jack is farmland, so we have rich farms here. We may go ahead and just put our capital there for that very reason. And we'll come down, the 3 is hills, and the king is more grass. So we've got hills and then grasslands here. The 10 is going to be swamps right there on the coast. How appropriate is that? I think we're going to have a river coming through the swamps. And then directly above that, next to that I should say, we've got heavy woods. And then above the heavy woods is more hills. So that's the terrain for the Black Nation. We're going to reshuffle, and we'll take a look at the White Nation next. Give these boys a nice shuffle, and again, remember the White Nation is going to be seated right here. And white just refers to the color of their uniforms. Don't get all bent out of shape. Looks like there's not quite as much going on in this corner of our map. But with all that heavy terrain up in the north, it looks like we know why these are two separate nations. Nice defensible frontier. If we do decide to send armies up into Dextromania, that should be nice and easy. Let's start down here. That ace is going to be hills, and the jack, here's our rich farm, so here's our capital. The 8 is light woods, and then just above the capital is a 10. That's going to be swamp up here, and then running from east to west, we've got an 8, 6, and a 3. That's going to be light woods, heavy woods, light woods, heavy woods, and the 3 is hills. So I think what we'll do is bend these mountains down into here. And then you've got heavy woods with light woods. Maybe we'll make this kind of rough and broken with one little trail running through to connect Forthright City down here. But we still need to figure out where our cities are. Did I miss any? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's about it. So you can see that we got a lot more plains here. That's fine. Let's break out our dice. Before we do cities, I want to do rivers. I know that I'm going to have a river coming down through the capital city. It probably flows through the marsh, and the capital is built on some nice defensible terrain on a little peninsula between the marsh and the coast. The question is, where does that river come from? And to figure that out, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 with the blue dice, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 with a red die. So that's going to tell me exactly where that river starts. So the river starts up here in the hills, and that one, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it starts on this side, and this number 1 means it starts right here, actually. All right, I don't like that. Never mind, forget that. We're just going to go ahead and start it right here. I'm not sure what happened there. You know what? I tell you what we're going to do. No, you know what we're going to do? I rolled a 4 and a 1, so we're going to have 2 rivers that come together something like this. They come together somewhere in here, and I don't exactly know where. It's going to kind of depend on where the city is. We'll put a city, we'll see where the dice land, but that gives us a little bit of a sketch. Now, to show you how Bill Silvestri, for those of you that haven't seen the earlier videos, he has you roll a d6 to figure out how large each city is. Or use a regular map. Just pull out a historical map and use that. He's got cities class A through E. And this is how many units they generate. Remember, we're doing this for a miniature wargaming. It's not going to be a lot of miniatures in this miniature wargame. It's all right. We're getting there. We're doing the paperwork to generate some organic battles. At any rate, we know where the capital is. The last time, for these maps, we had 10 communities. This time, and we had an even spread. So we had a 1 in 6 chance of getting Class A, 1 in 6 of B, C, D, and E. But, as we learned, cities are fractal. The larger cities will have fewer of them. So our capital is going to be Class A. Classes B through E, we're going to roll dice. And because the way this works is, on a 1, 2, or a 3, I'm going to roll d10s this time. And on a 1, 2, let me just go ahead and write that in here. On a 10, it's going to be a B. On an 8 or a 9, it's going to be a C. And on a 5, 6, or 7, it'll be D. And on 1 through 4, it'll be E. So we should have more of the small towns and fewer of the big towns. We should. Because we're going to have more of the small towns, I want to roll more dice. So I grabbed as many D10s, and these are actually D10s. We're going to take the 1's place. Thank you, Rooster. Likewise with this, we're going to take the 10s. So we have 15 settlements plus the capital. So these are going to be much larger. Further south, it's a more temperate region. I'm okay with that. We're going to go ahead and, how do we want to do this? We're just going to drop them from up high, and any dice that don't land on the map, we're going to roll like so. And then wherever the dice lands, that's where our communities are. These are a little too close. I think we need 1 port. I'm going to slide him down there, so we have a smaller port down there. And then, like I said, these rivers are, oh, so we got a lot of stuff up north. Nothing much down here. Okay, so let me write down the classes and the locations of each of these cities. There you have it. Looks like we got a lot of empty space here in the center of the map. A couple of D-class cities. Our capital here is way off on its own. It's very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and bend this river. So we have a C-class city here. That's where I want my rivers to come together. Not some little podunk village. At the confluence of these 2 rivers, that's where we're going to have our nice big city. And since we're bending it this way, let's go ahead and make this a crossing. Now remember, these rivers are, I guess we'll bend this one over here too, okay? These rivers are places where, these are the only places that large armies can cross. Let's go ahead and put it, make this a bridge town too. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 crossings on this little river network here. And I think maybe we'll run another little stream. Like I said, this runs, maybe we'll make this a little bit of a divide as well. And we'll run. See, we got a couple of big cities up here and a couple of villages down there. I'm not sure why that would be the case, that we'd only have a little village down here. Maybe we've got a river that cuts through this way, with lots of crossing points. Either way, now we're cooking. Now we got a map. We're going to need to sketch out a cleaner map. We're going to have to throw some names down on there. But now we're cooking. Got to do the same thing with our white nation. And I think it's pretty obvious that our river is going to come through here. And since we're rolling this way and it looks like most of our dice are going to land up there, I'm going to turn this around. By the way, I still have a couple of my original Moldvay D&D dice. I lost a couple along the way, but these are, man, how old are these? 78. They would be 35 years old now, 33 years old. Some old dice, brother. All right, let's roll them. Oh, double handful here. We're double dicing it. No D4s. We'll try to aim for some empty spots on the map to fill it out a little bit more. And there you have it. There's our town map. There's our nation. So, same thing. 1 through 4 is going to be A's, B's, and C's. Let me go ahead and move these dice out of the way, mark down some city sizes, and we'll be right back. All right, another interesting map. We don't have any B-class cities. We've got a couple of C boys up here on the coast. Those will be port towns. We got a C down here. And then a couple of D's here, here, and here, and here. And the rest of these are E's. So through here we've got just small towns and villages. If we flip this over and take a look, this river comes spilling down out of these hills. It's going to work its way around here and flow around those hills and come down here into the swamps. And I guess all of the frog hunters are going to export their frogs and eels out of there. So here's our Black Nation's New Orleans. And then this port over here must be road fed. It's got rich farms and grasslands. Oh, this rich farms is our capital, isn't it? So there's our A. And if we bring this together, then what we're looking at is a capital here and a capital here. And again, that capital is in a fairly exposed location. So we might have an oddity where these two capitals being so close to each other are strong allies. And we may have allies here. And we'll try to tie this back into the First Elopation War. All of the Sturm and Drang that occurred up north is going to have repercussions down here south. Old grudges will be united. People who love red-handed Helen and support her will demand that their king or queen, we might hear, I tell you what, while I got you, we're going to roll a d6 for each of these nations. And on a, well, no, I take it back. We're going to roll a d7. On an odd, he's going to have a king, and on an even, it's going to have a queen. So a 5 means we get a king, and on an even, we got a queen. So the white nation has a queen, and this nation has a king. So we have got some work to do prettying this up. I'll do that. We'll start throwing down regiments. We'll figure out what month of the year we're gonna sound the call to arms. And hopefully, after 1 or 2 more videos, we'll have some armies smashing up against each other so we can do some big battles. Keep an eye out for that. Until then, I'm praying for you.